I read a passage of God's words, a new passage. Let's see what year this passage. Well, I just want to. I'm just curious to see when this passage was released. April 27th, 2024. Wow. Almost 2 years ago. Very recent passage of God's words, or chapter of God's words, but what I'm going to read is a passage. And I think these words are really important, really special, really precious. They show us something I didn't know before. I've learned something new from this passage, and I'm always learning, and I used to say I learn something new every month, and sometimes I learn several things in a month, and I feel like this month has been a month of learning, like in the video about God being unfathomable, I talked about how there's people God cannot and will not save, though they are who they are due to God's ordination, which contradicts his words of saying that he wants to save everyone. And I said that contradiction is present because we cannot fathom God, and he is still fair and righteous despite us not understanding and thinking there's a contradiction in his actions and words. And seeing that contradiction shows that his wisdom is unfathomable, and it proves we really are just tiny little creatures created by God that cannot understand God. Because the Creator, he is righteous whether we understand his righteousness or not. So when we see contradictions that make it seem like he's not righteous, guess what? That proves we really are human beings, and we should trust God regardless of any contradictions we think we may be seeing, That's true, except for one thing. Those people can be saved. The people I thought couldn't be saved, that God wouldn't save, God can save them. Yeah. So that's a huge revelation. God says, the reason they have not gained the truth is that they do not pursue the truth. God cannot be blamed for this. This is because God does not show bias toward people, and nor does the truth. You have failed to gain the truth not because God has not given you the opportunity or because he hasn't let you hear his words, but because you have heard God's words yet do not ponder, think about, practice, or experience them. It is because you do not love the truth that you do not accept it. God has not sealed your eyes shut or sealed up your heart. Rather, it's your preferences and your preposterousness that have blocked your heart so that you cannot accept the truth. You have failed to gain the truth not because God hasn't provided it to you, but because you have never liked reading God's words, and you do not accept God's words or the truth in your heart. You treat your own beliefs and viewpoints as the truth to pursue and submit to. Do you want people to worship you as God? God's words and God's work are just a formality, a formula to you. You have not pursued the truth and life at all. So you believing in God can only end in one way, with you really having gained nothing. Why haven't you gained the truth? This is not because God has not granted you grace, but because of the path you personally walk. God has given you many opportunities and earnestly and patiently exhorts and helps you, but you pay no heed, nor do you accept being pruned either. You always pursue gaining blessings or pursue reputation and status, never quitting. Your ultimate failure to gain the truth is entirely caused by the path you personally have walked. You have not walked the path of pursuing the truth. This has nothing to do with God. God does not show bias toward people, and nor does the truth. Regardless of what your classification is, as long as you are a human being, then even supposing that your ability to comprehend the truth might be a bit worse than that of a normal person, if you can nevertheless listen to God's words, despite the fact that you may only understand some doctrines and abide by some regulations, you can still gain something. Many people can do this, so why can't you? Others listen to sermons and do their duty just the same, so why can they gain the truth, do their duty up to standard, and cast off their corrupt dispositions and submit to God, yet you cannot? God has arranged the environment for you to do your duty, hoping that you would understand the truth and be able to put it into practice. God has not hindered you, but you yourself always covet worldly things and fleshly pleasure. You do not eat and drink God's words, and you are averse to and reject the truth in your heart. You uphold Satan's philosophies and learning and knowledge as positive things and as the truth, while ignoring God's words and the truth, regarding them as your enemy, as something in opposition to you. Since you do not love the truth in your heart, why do you believe in God? You believe in God, but do not listen to God's words or accept God's words. Could you still hope to be saved? You don't accept the truth or cast off your corrupt disposition, so how could you be saved? You do not accept God's words and do not pursue the truth, yet still want to be accepted and recognized by God. This is a pipe dream. It will not work. You do not accept God's words and do not accept the truth. So that means there is no place for God in your heart. You only drift further and further from God. You will just be like a non-believer. It will be impossible for you to attain salvation. Impossible for you to attain salvation? Only because of the path you walk. God is willing to save you. Even if you're reincarnated from a demon, even if you have no soul, even if you have no conscience or reason, even if you're reincarnated from an animal, if you're a non-human, if you are not someone who can comprehend the truth very well, it doesn't matter. God is still willing to save you. He still makes arrangements for you. He still puts effort into saving you. That's what I learned from this passage. And it really touches my heart. And it's affirmation for me because it's like, wow, even though I'm reincarnated from a demon, God has saved me because I've pursued the truth and I've cooperated with God and I've cast off my corrupt disposition. And it doesn't matter that my comprehension of the truth isn't as good as a normal person's. My understanding is still higher than that of the average person, just because of the salvation God has granted me and my cooperation with God. I mean, I've been exalted by God. I've been elevated by God. I've been raised up by God to such a level, and the amount, like the disparity between where I was and where I am now. God raised me up higher than he raises up most people, because he raised me up from being less than a human to gaining salvation and understanding and practicing the truth, casting off my corruption. Like, he's raised me up that high. I mean, I that's mind-blowing. I don't understand that. That is mind-blowing that he has granted me salvation, because I was less than a human, Whew. Amazing. Wow. Yeah. So that's a beautiful passage of God's words. I'm so glad I read it. And I'm very happy and very thankful. And just, wow. You have no excuse. God's words are made available to you. God makes arrangements for you. God has spent so much time, energy, and effort on you. His blood, sweat, and tears have been put into you. And if you resist, if you do not accept the truth, that's your own problem. That has nothing to do with God. If you don't gain salvation, that's your own fault. God makes salvation available to everyone. Okay? So don't blame God if you don't gain salvation. Don't blame God if you're destroyed in the end, or if you gain a lesser level of salvation, or even if you go to hell. Don't blame God. And hopefully, and I pray that you'll be destroyed in hell and you won't spend eternity there. There are some words of God that imply that destruction happens after being in hell for some time. Once you experience different types of punishments, and you've experienced all the different types of punishments, such as having your tongue nailed to a board, and that's an example of a punishment. And there's other punishments like walking across a bridge, and if you fall off the bridge, you enter into lava, and you burn, and if you make it to the end of the bridge, you have to go through a meat grinder. And, after you experience these different forms of punishment, you're destroyed and you no longer have to suffer in hell. Hopefully. That's what I pray for everyone who cannot accept the truth, because, I don't want anybody to suffer that, eternity in hell. I mean, there are people I would like to see suffer punishments in hell, you know, but I don't want them to spend eternity there. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think even the worst people should spend eternity in hell. I think they should spend maybe, a couple hours or days in hell and then be destroyed and be done with it and just be gone. And God's words imply that that is something that probably happens. So if you really just hate the truth and don't accept it, I mean, have faith in God that you'll be destroyed in hell after you suffer, extreme punishment. So yeah, that's it. God bless and goodbye.